Hey, what's up everybody, it's your boy Moses and I'm back again with a new video. You already saw the title of this video and a lot of people have expressed interest that they really want to hear about my background and all of that, and that's why I'm making this video. This video has been requested for a while now and I have intentionally not made it up until this point because one, it's personal, and two, I don't think I'm a good storyteller. We're about to find out if I am or if I am not. You be the judge of that, but please be kind on your boy, right? But please, if you're truly interested, I want you to take time to watch it. If you're not, if you don't have the time right now, you know, like put it on your save later, or like just like it right now, and like so that it kind of pops up on your history and on your liked videos, and you can go back to it and watch it when you have the time. You can kind of just play in the background and be listening to it while you're working on something else, right? So let's get out of here and let's go have a discussion. So about 32 years ago, in the city of Abuja, Oyo State, Nigeria, I was born, and I lived in Ogbomoso for a very long time, for like 20 years of my life, the first 20 years of my life pretty much in Ogbomoso. So I was there, and my dad at the time was like a manager for like a furniture business. That was what I remembered. Furniture business, he was managing that business. My mom was an admin staff for, you know, the council, they call it the local government. We were not like super broke. I was still going to like a private nursery and primary school. And my dad at the time was also like, when we're talking about musical influence, he was a very major part of my, he was very influential in my musical journey. He was writing songs, he was, singing songs, he was a choir master as at the time, and before he later became a pastor. So when we talk about church music, my home church was the Apostolic Church, and I'll tell you, the kind of music we were doing in that church, even up until now, it's totally different from what I do now. Totally different. I don't even know what to describe it. It's different. We were still singing about God, don't get it wrong, and it's still very inspirational and spiritual for sure. But it was nothing compared to contemporary music. So, I just want to put that out there. Cool. I remember in primary 4, right? I did a common entrance. We call it a common entrance. That's the examination that you get to do before you go to the secondary schools. But guess what? They didn't let me go. That was like my first heartbreak, actually, as a kid. I passed. I got an admission to this secondary school. And my dad was like, no, you're not going. You're going back to do primary 5. I was so mad. But, I did primary 5, then went on to this other new school for my secondary education. But by the time I got to this new school, right, my dad was just becoming a pastor at that time. So he left his job, and he became a pastor. We were at this new church, we didn't even have keyboard. Okay, we didn't have keyboard, we didn't have anything. We had just drums, which is like conga percussion drums, some shakers, and your hands. That's all we had at this church, right? It was a new church. You become a pastor, then they just send you somewhere, you start a new branch. So we started in this new branch, and we were going there, walking all the way from my house all the way down to that church. Sometimes, he had this motorbike. He would take us there, put all the whole family on the bike. We go. Sometimes we walk. Sometimes church members, they'll take us. We tag along and things like that. But I had an uncle. He was attending another branch, the same church, but another branch in the same city, the Apostolic Church, right? He was the keyboard player at this other branch. So he would come home with like keyboard to the house. So he put it in the house. I would just watch him play. And I don't know what he was playing, but whenever he leaves the house, I would just sneak in there, play exactly what I saw him playing, like memorize the finger movement and everything, play the exact same thing. And That was what I was doing. So when I got to this new school at around JSS2 or something, they introduced music. So when they introduced music, I was already playing one or two things on the piano, right? Then this music teacher noticed me playing one or two things, and then he took a little more interest in me at the school. So he was teaching me, in the class, for sure, we'll do some things in the class, but on the assembly, every morning we have this system we do, we sing and all of that kind of thing. And we would just be on the assembly, and he would ask me to play the keyboard on the assembly, even though I was terrible. But as terrible as I was as a kid, I was still good among the students in a way, right? So I'll play, and I was falling in love with music a little bit more. That was how I started learning music theory, treble clef, bass clef, all those little things, FACE, all those little things for the musical theory, accidental note, major scale, tone, semitone, tone, semitone. That was where I started learning that. So what I was doing back home, that I was memorizing and cramming stuff for, was beginning to kind of like make sense, right? And then I was already in JSS3. We were preparing for our junior WAEC, right? And a tragedy happened. It was like the very first day, May 1st, 2005. That will be 20 years actually this year. My dad passed away. He was involved in a motor accident, and he didn't make it, and he passed away. And that was how everything turned upside down. Let's get out of here and we'll continue the story. All right, so I'm back here in the studio. Let's continue with the story. So now at this point, at JSS3, I wrote that exam. It was very tough to focus as, a 12-year-old who just lost his father trying to write a major examination at this point. That was the hardest examination for me, the most hardest major examination for me. So, went through it, passed, and it was time to go on to the senior secondary school. Decided I was going to go into the science class. That's what we call it. You do chemistry, biology, physics, you're in the science class. If you're going to be doing accounting, you're probably in the commercial class. If you're going to be doing history and some other courses, you're probably in the art class, right? So at this point, I was joining the science class, but now we decided to go on to a school called School of Science. This is a school where the only thing they'll do here is science, just for science students only, no commercial students, no art students. It's not a private school, but the education is actually quite good. It's a public school that is very subsidized by the Oyo State government. I believe there's some other states in Nigeria that I think they have this same concept of School of Science school, right? So I was in that school. There is no music here anymore at this point, right? So now I'm only playing at church. At this point, I'm only playing at church. I could now sight read a little bit. I could sight play as well, but very limited. And it's kind of like always been like that. The only music I was getting, only formal music education that I was getting up until this point, boom, cut short. So I'm back into just being at church, playing at church now. I believe at this point, we had a keyboard now, something like that. When my dad passed away and we moved to another, we had another pastor coming. The church was already growing at this point or something like that. So I was only playing now at church, which is still very local music, right? So that was what I was kind of playing. I did that School of Science thing, went on 3 years, right? At XS2, the second year, SS2, I decided to write we call it National Examination Council. I wrote that in another school. Actually, I went to register in another school to write it, kind of just test myself and my ability ahead of what was going to happen in the third year, which is the final year of the senior secondary school at the time. So I passed, but I did not go on to the university. Number one, but just because the principal of my school was so pissed, because when I registered in another school, this new school that I registered on, the principal actually snitched on me, and he told so I think they have like an association of principals or something like that. So all these principals, all these head of schools, they know themselves within the same community, right? They all know themselves. So he knew that I was not necessarily a student that came from another school to register and join his own school. And he asked me, oh, which school are you from? I told him where I'm from. He didn't say anything to me until I finished the exam and I went back to my school. My principal at my own school of science was so mad. Why would you do that? Eventually, we just kind of like begged him, and that was the whole story. Did my SS3, wrote my UTME, passed, move on. I got an admission to Ladoke Akintola University of Technology to do agronomy, which was like study of soil and crops or something like that. That wasn't what I wanted to do. I was in between medicine and engineering, right? I was in between medicine and engineering. I was thinking about those two, but they gave me agronomy. But one beautiful thing about School of Technology, Universities of Technology in Nigeria, the beauty of it is that they have this thing, and I don't understand why. You do 5 years in those schools. It doesn't matter what course you do. You do 5 years, not 4 years. The first year, almost everybody in the school, they are all doing the same thing. Either you are in medicine or you are in fine arts. We are all kind of doing the same course. This is like year one, almost like a recap of your secondary school education and like bridging into the university level. So that year one, it's like you can be in any department, and year two, you can choose to cross over into the department that you actually want to do, or the program that you actually want to do. So I was in agronomy, but the plan was, you're not going to study agronomy. I'm crossing over to another program. So I was able to cross over to engineering, simply because I just didn't like medicine anymore. The smell of those laboratories, oh my God, I couldn't stand that smell, dealing with the corpses that they were using to do practices and surgery, because I think the medicine in Lautech, it's medicine and surgery, I believe. I didn't want to do that, so I made up my mind, let's go do engineering, mechanical engineering. I was able to get someone who helped me, cross over into engineering, even though I had good grade, but that's not enough. You gotta know some people sometimes. So shout out to the person that helped me. Thank you. Yeah. I gotta mention that. At this point now, I was staying in the school area. My cousin from Lagos, from my mom's side, he was also in the same university. So there was a room that his dad was paying for, and I was living with him at that time in the school area, so that the commute would not be too difficult for me all the way from home to the school area, right, at that time. So we were living in the school community, but every weekend I would go home. Sometimes my cousin would come with me, we'd go home together. Every weekend I would always go home, and I would always, go serve at my local church every weekend, still play local music. And at this point, I found a group that I joined. We were playing Tungba music, all right? If you know what that kind of music is, Ian Kayefele style music. Every other weekend, there's a party that we'll play for. We hand some money, they share the money, they give you your own portion, kind of use it for the week. So that was what I was kind of using to balance myself. And I was doing that year one, year two. I would go home, I'll go to these shows on Saturdays, on Sundays, sometimes on Friday afternoons. So sometimes I'll miss lectures to go play at a show. Or sometimes I'll be like, it depends. If it is not a major class, I'll miss it. I'll cover it up, catch up later, go for the show, make extra money, go for the next show on Saturday, make extra money, go back home, go to church, go to my local church on Sunday to go and, play, right? So I was kind of like doing that until something happened. One day, I think it was in year 3, right? I was in year 3. Something interesting happened. I went for a school concert, right? In my school, there is always this gospel with student fellowship. Someone is always organizing a concert and things like that. And it so happened that one day I was at this event, and the kind of music they were playing, it was as if I've never heard it before. The one that stood out to me that I remember very well was they were playing this song, by Kirk Franklin, Brighter Day, Brighter Day, Brighter Day, Brighter Day. That was the first time I've ever heard Kirk Franklin before in my life. All my life, the only other kind of music I know was Ron Kenoly and, all those integrity music. But this black gospel style, I've never heard it before. It's like, what? Brighter Day, what is this? The keyboardist was tearing things up. This is the kind of thing I've never imagined playing. I was only playing in the key of F and maybe C a little bit at that time. But F, oh my God, I was playing on F anyhow, right? And I've mentioned this before, right? Maybe a little bit of G as well at the time. And this guy was playing Brighter Day, Brighter Day, Brighter Day. And I was like, whoa, what is this guy doing? Man, I couldn't talk to him at that concert, man. I could not. So one of these days, maybe like a week or two later, in my Tungba music band, the guitar player, I was telling the guitar player, like, man, there was this guy that I saw at school concert one of these days. He was just playing keyboard. He was so good. I described the guy. I described his face, his physique, his hairstyle. For him, I was like, oh, I know him. He plays at my church. What, he plays at your church? He said, yes, he plays at my church. This is his name. This is his name, blah, 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 blah. I was like, wow. Okay. So I was like, I gotta get with him. So he said he's gonna introduce me. But he gave me his name. I went on Facebook, added him on Facebook. This was like 2011. Yeah, so I reached out to this guy on Facebook, Yinka, and I reached out to him. I was like, hey, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is my problem, this is my challenge, and I'm hoping you can help me out, and I'm struggling with this. And he was like, yeah, let's see at church. So Tunde, the guitar player in the Tungba band that I was playing at, introduced me to him, and we kind of just started off with that. I think first thing that I remember was like, he was asking me, oh, what key do you play? I was like, I only play F and C, maybe a little bit of G or so. And he was like, yeah, you're gonna have to be able to play all keys. Do you have your own keyboard? I said, I don't. Well, you have to buy your own keyboard. So he started by just giving me a bunch of music. He was wanted to change my entire ears completely. So it's like, right now just going to be listening to all these songs, giving me Chick Corea albums, giving me Ebi Hancock. This was the first time in my life I'm hearing about Chick Corea. I'm hearing about Ebi Hancock. It's not necessarily asking me to score them, just by listening to them. So now I'm conditioning my mind into listening to a whole different landscape of music. I was already listening to a little bit of jazz, listening to Norman Brown, George Benson, Clue, a little bit of guitar players, and some of those arrangements, kind of like getting used to that. But listening to Chick Corea and Ebi Hancock was a whole different level, because you're listening to chord jazz as a keyboard player or as a piano player. So, that was different. And he also introduced me to gospel artists like J.J. Epstein, Kirk Franklin for sure, because again, I met him playing that Kirk Franklin, those Brighter Day song, and those progression, those chords. To me, there was this is something I've never seen before, So I was attending the church, I was shadowing him, and at this point, he was actually about to go on for his internship, his IT, that's what we call it, or industrial training. So he was about to go and do that in September, I think. He was about to start that, and I met him around August 2011. And it was like, okay, I'm gonna be going, but be listening to all these things, start learning all these things and stuff like that. So I shadowed him for a few weeks, and then he went for the internship. And I was going to that church, I was attending that church a little bit, just playing along and things like that. But I was still not feeling that shoes yet. So there was another guy in the picture, his name was Solomon, I can't remember his last name. Solo Keys was one of those guys that was really good as well at school back then. So when Yinka left for his industrial training, because he was 1 year ahead of me, I started on trying to link up with Solo Keys a little bit, just to learn one or two things. And I was able to kind of learn one or two things from Solo Keys as well during the time that Yinka was doing his own internship back in Lagos. So when Yinka came back, 500 level 4 semester for him. Now it was 400 level 4 semester for me. Yinka came back. He now had a little bit more of my time, at this point, more of my time to kind of start teaching me. So we started teaching. I stopped going to my home church. So I told my mom, this is the situation of things. I stopped going to my home church. I was shadowing him full time. They had only one keyboard, but the only thing I was just doing was just shadowing him. We'll go to rehearsal together, right? He would take me along. We'll be on the bike. We go to church for rehearsal on Thursday evenings or so. We do night vigils. That was where I started to learn how to score songs, how to score parts to songs, and how to teach it, because I saw him doing it and I was just watching. That was all I was doing at this point. Watching. I was not playing, right? So again, I was the main keyboardist at my church. I stopped going there. I started going to a new church now where I don't play, I just watch. I was just sitting down, I was just watching, just watching Yinka teach the choir, teach the band. I was learning the chords I was playing. I would ask questions. I would watch him during praise and worship. God forgive me. After praise and worship, maybe when pastor is preaching, I would ask him, so there was this chord that you played at this location, what was that? And then he will explain to me during service, and sometimes after service we kind of do one or two things. He show me things, ask me to play it. And at this time I sold one of my, I think I sold my Nokia C3, and I bought myself a small Yamaha PSR 229. I sold my Nokia C3. This C3, I believe, was like, it has the ASDF QWERTY keypad. I sold it and I downgraded to another smaller phone just to be able to afford to buy a keyboard. So I was able to buy a keyboard at that time using all those money I was making as well from like my gigging thing, my Tungba music. I was still doing Tungba music, by the way, because I needed that to keep making money. So he would do all of that. We would do all these things, and it was time for me to go 400 level second semester. It was time for me to go for my own industrial training, right? So I went to Lagos. So in Lagos, I was working, I was doing my internship. There was a church I was playing at, one redeemed church I was playing at in K2, Lagos at the time. And one of these days, there was like an advert that came out. Eric Arubayi was the name of the artist. Rest in peace now, Eric is late. Eric was looking for keyboard players. So there was this audition for keyboard players, There was this audition for keyboard players to come and audition for Eric's new team, Eric's new band that he was putting together. And I remember going for that audition. I went there, I did my part. I thought I was okay, bro. Lagos boys were on another level. Then I met this guy called HopeDavids. He came late for the audition. He was the last keyboard player to audition. When this guy mounted on that keyboard, I have never heard the things he was playing. I had never heard it before. HopeDavids passed away a few years ago. But for context, how good HopeDavids was. Many of you know Chibuzo Dialect. You guys know Dialect. If you don't know Dialect, go and look him up. Dialect is one of the best keys player from Nigeria. HopeDavids and Dialect, they were twins. Literally, they were like twins, best friends. They were attending the same church, playing together at the same church. HopeDavids, people used to argue, according to Dialect. Dialect told me, people used to argue who was the best, who was the better keyboard player. That was how good this guy was. So I met HopeDavids at that audition. I was like, nah, I gotta talk to this guy. If you guys remember BlackBerry that time, so I took his BlackBerry PIN number, and then we started talking, we started connecting in Lagos. Then he started teaching me one or two things. He linked me up with another church in Abuja at that time. You know, again, I was doing my internship. I was trying to make enough money. I wanted to buy my first laptop so that I can use it to do my projects when I go back for 500 level, all those kind of things. So yes, I was playing for money, all right, if that's what you wanted to hear. At the time of my life, I was playing for money. Great. So I played in those places. He linked me up with a couple of places. I would sleep in his house. He was exposing me to another dimension of music, right? Marvin Sapp, he was the one that kind of like got me on to like Marvin Sapp. He put on my phone. I gave him my phone overnight. We went to bed, used his computer, all of his songs and libraries, all the albums from Marvin Sapp back in the day, just dropped it on my phone. Fred Hammond and the United Tenors dropped it on my phone, all of their albums that he had. Ty Tribet, all the albums from Ty Tribet, from, I don't even know if this was the first album at that time. He just gave me everything. Been listening to all this one. So I was already getting good, and then he gave me all of those materials, and he taught me one or two things as well. You know, no, I said one or two things, but it was more than one or two things. So by the time I go back to school, 500 left for semester, you know, I was just better than I left. That experience just changed everything, right? I was much better than I left. And as I was getting back to school, Yinka was leaving. So Yinka just told that church that I was attending, Holy Ghost Christian Center, you know, you guys, retain this guy, I recommend him, you know. And I was now serving at that church as the main keyboard player, right? So one of these days, sometimes around 20, at this point, it was 2013 at this point, around that 2013, the pastor, or one of the branch pastor in Holy Ghost Christian Center from Abuja, they came down to Ogbomoso to come and do some event. I think it was a burial, if I'm not wrong. So they came around, they did this event, and they saw me playing. They were like, who's this keyboard in this Ogbomoso that is playing, keyboard player that is playing like this, you know? And we talked. Shout out to Samson, aka Sam Martins, or Shamko that we call him. And then we kind of like connected. I was like, okay, you know, when you're done with school, we would like to have you come do your NYSC over in Abuja, you know, and let's see how that goes. We can work, we can try and help you out to get over to Abuja. And I was like, okay, no problem. When the time comes, I will hold you up to it. I think we exchanged contact, and that was it. We exchanged BB pin as usual, right? You know, by the time I finished my study, you know, I just like gave them a call, give them a shout out. Hey guys, I'm done. Are we still on for what you mentioned? So like, yeah, you know, they helped me. They moved me to Abuja. They helped me get my NYSC done to Abuja. So I was in Abuja, you know, doing my NYSC, and I was attending that church. You know, they gave me an accommodation. I was staying with one of the pastors. At some point, I was living with the lead pastor as well. At some point, so I was living there. I was doing my NYSC. So as I was doing my NYSC, and then I also was able to get an offer to do my actual NYSC at Nigerian Bottling Company. So, you know, thankfully I was able to just get that opportunity. Shout out to all the people that helped me along the way. Honestly, like I'm saying, this is not just like you don't get there by yourself. People helped you along the way, and I'm super grateful. I'm flashing back and I'm remembering that. So I was working at Nigerian Bottling Company as a maintenance planner, right? I have this mechanical engineering degree. I was working in the maintenance team, engineering and maintenance team. I was working there. I was, you know, going, serving at church. So I had three sources of income at this point. Like the church was paying me some money, NYSC was paying me some money, Nigerian Bottling Company was paying me some money. So like three sources of income. Not a lot of money when you add it all together at the end of the month. Trust me, it probably was not up to $50 or $50K. So at that time, so I was kind of like just, you know, managing and doing all of that. But I knew when I was in Abuja, I saw a whole different level of success in a way. Like I was like, no, I have to get out of Nigeria, because what I see here is totally different. The vision I have is totally different. Back in school as well, that I wanted to do my master's degree abroad. I don't want to do it in this country. I want to do it abroad. So as I was in Abuja, I was, you know, beginning to research more about scholarship opportunities. I know I cannot afford I cannot afford master's degree. I can't tell my mom to pay for a master's degree. At this point, she's tried. I still have siblings she's taking care of. I'm the first. She has done this. She has sent me to uni. I'm done with bachelor's. Now go fend for yourself. I want to travel out of country. I want to do master's degree. Don't even bring it up with your mom. So get scholarship. Thankfully, I finished with, a second class upper degree, a very strong one at that time, slightly below first class, which kind of sucks. But Nigerian universities, that's what it does to you. You can be smart. You can, you don't even want to go there. Second class upper is almost equivalent to first class in some places. But that's an argument for another time, you know what I'm saying? So I was able to get a scholarship, thanks to God. I got this scholarship called PTDF scholarship. I wrote the exam, I applied, wrote the exam. I was already applying to UK schools at this time. I already had admission lined up. I just don't have fees. So I wrote the IELTS. I wrote IELTS. Before I even got the scholarship, I had done, this is what preparation does to you guys, right? At one time in my life, I was looking for scholarship. I had not gotten the scholarship, but I went out there and I did my international passport. There were times, I remember this one for sure, I will be praying at night and I will just bring out passport, need this passport, receive visa. Nothing was going on. I don't know how I'm going to travel. I don't know how I'm going to get the scholarship I'm looking for, but I was praying in that direction. I was applying, and I'll give you this game as well. I was applying to scholarships, right? But I was going on LinkedIn, and I would go on LinkedIn and I would just search the name of the scholarship. There is Commonwealth scholarship, there are different kind of scholarships, guys, right? For the one that I know I qualify for, with my qualification, with my degree, with my whatever you graduate with, your grade that you graduated with, the kind of course that you want to go do, the schools offering those, I kind of narrowed down all those scholarships. And then I would say PTDF scholarship. I will go on LinkedIn and search for those who received that scholarship before, and then I will ask them questions like, what tips can you give me? How can I prepare? How can I write my statement of purpose in a way where, it's acceptable? What can I prepare for? Some people answer, some people will not answer you, but you got to keep trying. So you search for as many people in the past who have done what you are looking for, and you ask them questions. And those questions really helped me out. Those answers helped me out. So people gave me material to study. I studied the material, I wrote exam, I passed. The day when the results came, the list came out, I was on the list, got a scholarship. Sometimes in September, I traveled out of the country, fully sponsored scholarship, everything paid for. I didn't spend a dime. I was in Newcastle doing pipeline engineering for my master's degree. And, as I was there, for one of the first things I did was join the church, right? I joined the church, and I joined the church, with an amazing family, right? They took me in, they took care of me as a student and all of that. And when they found that I know how to play keyboard, it even opened the door a little bit more. Like I was in the music team, I was going for the rehearsal and all of that kind of thing. So that was like my journey from Nigeria to traveling out of Nigeria to the UK. So now in the UK, I was studying, I was attending church, I was serving, I was doing all of that. And then I finished my degree. But before I finished, one of the things I was already doing was I was already thinking. I made sure I got a US visa. I traveled to the US, I came back. And then we heard about Canada Express Entry. I looked into it, it was like, okay, I'm qualified. I have master's degree. I'm just about 25 years old at this point. I have work experience. Remember the Nigerian bottling company, NBC, Coca-Cola actually? Work experience as an engineering experience that you can use. You need just 1 year. You're young. You have master's degree. Apply for this thing. You can write IELTS. I wrote IELTS again. The first IELTS I wrote back in Nigeria was the academic IELTS. If you're familiar with IELTS, right? Academic IELTS is different from the general IELTS. So you need the general one. So I was like, I've done the academic. It can't be that bad. Go to the general to apply for this Canada Express Entry. So we did that. I was like, okay, no problem. I have this on my horizon. I was saving up money because you need proof of funds. You need a certain amount of money, I think about $10,000 to be able to come in. My money that I was saving from my scholarship, this was what I used. I was saving that money as my proof of funds. So there was one time after my program ended, the pastor of the church I was attending just called me like, hey, God is laying in my heart to keep you here. I was like, what's your plan? I said, Pastor, I don't have a plan. My plan right now is go to the US. While I'm in the US, if the Canada thing comes through, I'll move to Canada. And it was like, if you don't mind, God spoke to me to keep you here for now, or something like that. I was like, yeah, no problem. So there was a program at that time that they were able to do, that they could do. I don't know if it is still available, right? That kind of thing. It was like a religious worker kind of visa. They were trying to apply for me to get that. And the British government just kept denying. They were like, you came here to study engineering. You have your pipeline engineering degree right now. And you're telling us you want to become a pastor, a music director. No way. We're not going to approve this visa. So they did not approve the visa, but at some point in that 2018 period, my permanent resident visa came through and I got my visa to come to Canada, So I left Nigeria, I left UK. At that time, the living process was even a mess, but we will not even go there. So I left UK and then I came to Canada. But in between that time, so look at it, I graduated in 2017. Right? Left Nigeria in 2016, did 1 year program, graduated in 2017. The whole of 2018, I was waiting for a visa. We were going back and forth with the British government, waiting, Home Office, that's what they call them, waiting for my visa. We're going back. They reject, we will appeal. They reject, we will appeal until the Canadian thing came around and it was sure that I have to just go to Canada at this point because this UK thing is not going to work. And this Canada one is about to expire, so you got to go. So the whole of 2018, I was not working at any organization. I was only serving at church. The church was so kind to me. They were helping me out. People were blessing me. But I used the time to now start thinking about music production. So this was the time I transitioned from just being a keyboard player to being somebody that could translate music into production, into recorded music, right? So performance music into recorded music. I was learning how to use Logic. This was the first time I bought a MacBook Pro, right? I had my own laptop before. Remember back in the day when I finished my internship, I was saving up to buy a laptop. I bought a laptop that time. That was a laptop that I was using throughout my, master's degree period. But at this point, I wanted to use Logic. So I was like, I researched online. They said Logic is good. Okay, now I have to buy Apple. So I used to be a Windows and a Samsung guy. Now I have to buy Apple. So I bought Apple. I bought a MacBook Pro, used one, started using Logic. I was doing covers. I was soloing along with some secular music. There's still some videos on YouTube. If you go back, old videos, you probably find one or two. I was doing that and I was making loops, right? I started making percussion loops. That was the first time I started making loops. So one time during that 2018 period, the music pastor of the church called me, Pastor Victor, like, hey Moses, do a demo for this song. If you can do like a demo for this song that I have, and then we'll give it to a producer to produce. So I did the demo. By the time I submitted the demo, it was like, no, this cannot be a demo. This is almost finished. You know what? You're going to finish this production. So that was how I finished the first production, and then I did the second song for him. That was how I started producing. Now, those songs to me, even till now, they still sound like trash compared to what I can do now, right? But that was my introduction. He literally pushed me into producing, and that kind of changed the trajectory of how I see music and all of that. So I moved to Canada from there. Moved into Canada. Shout out to Paul and Soji, and then we connected and I started attending NCA, and then I started recording more videos to like just put out there. And that was like the whole journey, guys, man. I know it's a long story, but I got into Canada. I was even thinking when I was coming to Canada, so like, you're coming to Canada now as a permanent resident. Are you coming in here to practice engineering, or you're coming in here to make music? If you want to do music full time, maybe go to Toronto, like they say. If you want to practice oil and gas, pipeline engineering, maybe come to Calgary. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to come to Calgary. I want to practice. And there's a reason to that. And I'm going to mention that a little bit. There's a reason why I'm still practicing here in Canada. There's a reason why I'm not doing music full time. I'm not a full-time musician. I'm not a full-time music director or whatnot. I don't resume to church 9 to 5, Monday to Friday or something like that. No, I work full-time 9 to 5 as an engineer. And there's a reason to that. There are so many things. As you guys already know, right? Like, making good money from music is not easy. A lot of people don't say it well. It's so hard to make substantial amount of money from music. As a musician, it's so hard to make 6 figures in dollars. As a musician, you're just playing music and you want to make $100,000 and above. It's so hard. You probably play for a very top artist that is paying you well. You can only make that kind of money in that way. Maybe you're touring a lot with the top artists. If you're sitting down to just play a few gigs, and you're even here in Canada that, we have summer and we have winter. Summer is busy, after summer, nothing else. Winter is so dry, and you want to depend on gigs, good luck to you, right? So there are some level of finance you might never see if you just decide to be only musician. If you're gonna be an artist, that's a different ballgame. Maybe you make more money if you're the artist, streaming income, they're inviting you for programs, they're giving you an honorarium and things like that. If you're gonna be a producer as well, you're producing for people, make sure you're like signing the right deal, you have right artists that you're working with, that they're truly interested in working with you and not just wanting to screw you over, right? Like, you're signing the right deal, you're signing the right split for the work that you are participating in and things like that. And there's a lot of disrespect for musicians. You guys already know there's a lot of drama and a lot of discussion around should musicians be paid and all of those kind of things. And I just don't want that. I don't want to be in the middle of me justifying why my gifts should be compensated for. So you know what? I have a degree in engineering, a master's degree for the matter, graduated with a distinction. I'm not going to sit around and let somebody decide my future for me, my finances for me. I'm going to go out there, I'm going to go work, I'm going to make my money for myself, and I'm going to serve God. As you guys can see my story, God has blessed me with amazing opportunities. So my life is different. There are people at some point that they need money at a certain point in their life. Remember my story, right? When I was in Nigeria, when I was in school, when I was paying school fees, I was trying to help my mom out and things like that. There was a time I needed to play for money. And there was a time I know that, God has been faithful to me. I'm in this capacity. I can fend for myself. If this money comes, it's an addition. It's not like a requirement that I can kind of like bent on. And to face all those disrespect and all those things, I was like, you know what? No, I'm going to go practice. And I'm going to be, going to be doing my music on the side as well. And also, if you guys know, the brain of a musician is a very special brain. We are wired differently. And I feel like if you use your brain well as a musician, and you can also channel that creativity into something else. And I feel like I want to participate in the community, in the society. I have this engineering degree. Don't waste it. Put it to use. You're already creative musically. Creativity, you can also, engineering is just a scientific creativity in a way. You're creating something that is backed up with scientific theory, right? So you still have that creative mindset. Go use it in that engineering space and also make money, right? So I wanted to put that. And also I wanted to also inspire a lot of people who are also like full-time, they work regular jobs. I wanted to inspire them to know that it's possible to have full-time job and still be decent at your instrument and still be great at your instrument, right? So I wanted to kind of like do that a little bit as well. Like, I work full-time as well, and you can still be great. We might not necessarily be the best keys player in the world because we're busy. We have work 9 to 5, day in, day out. Then you start having family. So it's hard, but we can still do the best that we can. So it's also one of the reasons why I was like, let's just keep doing this, right? And, lastly, one of the reasons why I still work full-time and I'm not a full-time musician is like, there are certain leadership skills you pick up at work, at your corporate job, that is operating at a very high level when it comes to leadership and project managing, portfolio managing, asset management, and things like that, right? So there are some things you pick up, some leadership skills you pick up. You never pick it up at some religious settings. And a lot of musicians act unprofessionally. And that's why you see that effect cascade down into how a lot of people talk about musicians, right? So the professionalism that I get to see at work, corporate level, all these little things, attending meetings, being on time, writing emails, those little things, as little as the same, they make a lot of difference in how you present yourself, right? So those were huge for me, and I feel like I want to acquire those leadership skills and cascade them into the religious sector as well, the Christianity to the kingdom. Let's do things excellently. Like let's do things well. See the way the world are doing things excellently. Let's achieve excellence. Don't depend on Holy Spirit is going to help us. What are you putting in place? You have a project that you're doing. What's the deadline? What are we doing? All this kind of thing, right? So it's also important, like getting those experience in the corporate world is very, very huge. And I wanted to make sure I do that. So it goes down to the last part of this video, which is like, why do I make videos? There are a lot of reasons why I make videos. I want to add into the world. I want to put something into the world. Yeah, right? I want to inspire people. There's a purpose that I know God has for me. There was a time in my life I was asking God, what do you want me to do with this music? And He said, He changed my name, first of all. There was a time Moses Joshua was not a name at one point, right? Moses Joshua, my IG handle at one point was totally different, right? It was not Moses Joshua at that time. I recently changed it to Moses Joshua, sometime around 2020. I think that was when I changed it to Moses Joshua, maybe 2020 or 2021. I can't remember. And I was praying, and God kind of gave me a new name. Moses is my first name. Joshua is my dad's first name. And God told me that I want you, I've selected you to release the sound of Yahweh's salvation. And God was kind of giving me different pointers in the scriptures, Moses, the meaning of Moses, the meaning of Joshua. If you guys know what Moses means, drawn out of water. But drawn out of water is not just spiritually. The Bible says, I see people like many waters. Brought out of water, it could also mean brought out of many people. So I have selected you out of many people. That is the Moses part. Joshua actually means Yahweh is salvation. And when it came together for me, when God told me I have selected you to release the sound of Yahweh's salvation, it didn't make sense. And He said, change your name to this. And then I started studying more. It's like, this is what this means. There's a meaning to it. So Moses Joshua didn't just appear out of nowhere, and then it appeared, and God started blessing everything that we've been doing, which I'm grateful for. But we're just starting. The whole idea, one of the things I pray about is, God, anoint me with the sound of salvation. When I play, when I release anything, when I put out anything into the world, let there be a sound of salvation behind this thing. Anyone listening to this, let them come to the knowledge of Christ through this ministration. Even when we're not preaching, the sound of salvation, God release the sound of salvation. Anoint me with the sound of salvation. Bless my hands to release the sound of salvation. It's like always my prayer every other day, every day, that I pray about, because that is my purpose. And I want to put that out there. That's the number one reason why I make video. Number two is, we all know that, YouTube is not like a library, and you can come on YouTube to search for anything. And I want to be a blessing. People can search for things, tutorial materials and things like that. I'm putting out video because of that. And also, I'm also documenting my journey. There is a thing about documenting journey. One of the reasons I also make video is this. When I lost my dad when I was like 12 years old, I didn't feel like I know him well, right? I was just 12. I was a kid. I remember his face, but I did not know who he was as a person. I know he loved me, for sure. I remember the times he would give me gifts and things like that. But when we're talking about knowing someone on a deeper level, I didn't feel like I knew him. If there was something like YouTube, if there was something like content back in the day, and he released content, maybe I would have known him a little bit more just by watching some of his videos and watching him tell his own story. Maybe I would have learned more about him that way. Aside of the things that my mom tells me or that she has told me, but learning directly from him would have been a little different. And I wanted to put my own journey on YouTube like a library, as an archive for my children's children, for them to see that I was a man that served God, and God was rewarding me immensely for my services. And it pays to serve God, because I know that I can never fail. I'm serving Him, and I know He will reward me. But the generations to come needs to know that there is a reward. It's okay for them to be told that your grandfather was a man that served God. He would always, go to church. He would always serve in church. He would also be a part of this and that. But you know what would be better? If they could see the video evidence. I feel like that would be better. And I'm also recording some of my videos just to put it out there. It doesn't matter if it gets views. I'm sometimes putting video in here to just document my own journey, to just show the world my own journey, to just keep this for my future generation. I'm just documenting all of that, And like I said as well, I'm doing this also to kind of show to the world that you can be, you can be a decent musician. Probably, I'm not claiming to be the baddest keys player ever, but you can be decently great at what you do, and you can still maybe have a 9-to-5 job, if that is the life that that you are in, if that's the situation that you are in your life. It is possible to be excellent and still be in the marketplace as well. There's a way we can blend things healthily, balance, work-life balance, family balance, and all of that kind of thing. And also, I want to be able to create a sense of community for musicians as well, especially for those who also for those who are in my situation at any point in your life. Community of musicians where we can reach out to each other, and I can answer questions, I can point guidance if I want to. If you're the kind of person that you're thinking of, should I be a full-time musician, or should I go all into secular job and things like that? I'm an example. I want to be an example. I want to be able to give advices. If you're a student and you're thinking of, should I become a music? I would say, please just also make sure you graduate well. Graduate with good grades. It can open doors for you. So as you can see, music is not just existing by itself. And my education in engineering was not just existing by itself. It was working together, right? Education took me to the university. And at university enhanced my music. That enhancement is music now took me to Abuja at some point. But then education and the degree that I got took me out of Nigeria. Again, that education and all this music, I was serving at that church. They were supporting me. They were helping me. They kept me in UK until my Canadian thing came through to move to Canada. And education again at this point and my work experience came together, brought me to Canada. But now in Canada, I'm able to work because I have the education and the work experience, blah, blah, blah. But then I'm also able to serve at a full-time, at a high level musically because of my music. Things are working together. Don't just go all in one basket. And if you're going all in one basket and you're convinced that that's the best path for you as well, go for it. Go for it. You know, God is always a wonderful God. He knows what to do for you. He has the right plan for you. Right? If you believe strongly like this is your home path, go for it. Go for it fearlessly and pursue it fearlessly. Right? Ask questions along the way, get help along the way, get mentors along the way. It will help you a lot and you get to where you're going. Right? God is always there to help you in whatever it is you're trying to do with your life. Right? He knows you. He has plans for you. And it's going to help you succeed. I hope this video has been a blessing. This is my journey. This is my story. This is how far I've come. I would like to hear from you guys. Please encourage me with dropping comments. If you watch this whole video, man, I'm so glad. I am so happy. I am so honored. I am so blessed to know that you guys actually watch all this long episode and story. So drop a comment in below. Let me know what you guys feel. If you're not already, please like this video. Give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you think about it. If you're not a subscriber to this channel, please subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. But drop your questions, drop your comments. Let me know your own story. Come on, drop something for me too. Let me read some of your stories too, please, guys. Hope it was a good summary, and I hope I was a good storyteller. I'm speaking too much. All right, I love you guys.